Okay, good evening and welcome to Phil Goes Deep, and I'm Phil. Right now, we are just getting set up for tonight's show, and it is all about UI Builder. Okay, how hard can it UI be? Seen a lot of discussion about UI Builder in Quebec. One of the most exciting features to come out of the Quebec release. Although there seems to be quite a bit of, I think discussion is the best word about how easy it's going to be to utilise this feature. So I watched the live coding happy hour a few weeks ago. Watched the guys on there setting up a new experience. I followed that briefly, so I have tested some of this out. But what I want to do is try and work on the ability to open a UI page from a record. So within GRC, you've got controls, and controls have attestations, which are using the survey widget, or the survey functionality, assessments and surveys. So attestations all use a UI page. So if I can bring that into UI Builder and make that experience quite seamless, then I think that I will have learned something, and hopefully we'll see how difficult that can be. So I just want to check to TY Tig Roach. Yeah, the audio level, thanks. I was just about to check on the audio level. I just wasn't sure on this clip whether, because last time I played it, it was too loud. So I just want to see if I switch it. Is that audio, is that playing? I don't know if that plays or not. So I turned the monitoring off of it, and I turned the volume down because last time apparently it was way too loud. So anyway, I was just messing around with some After Effects, trying to jazz up the stream a little bit. Shout to Wiz. Excellent. Well, thanks for tuning in. So let's switch it over. Some of my setups changed a little bit. So I've got a new green screen, and that seems to be working okay. Let's not talk about the hair. Let's not talk about the eyebrows. Excellent. So here's my browser, and I've shared in the chat. I'll just share it again. I'm not sure if you can heard the intro clip. Volume was even. Oh, I forgot to stop talking while it was playing. Sorry, that's my bad. Yeah, thanks. Wasn't too much like a late night club night. Yeah, I think last time I hadn't mastered the audio down. So yeah, this post, I just shared it in the chat from Andrew P. Check that out. Very useful. Got some nice diagrams in there, and I love a diagram. So basic concepts of UI Builder, and the now experience, application shell, and the config, etc. So I had a quick read of this earlier. Really interesting. I'll just create a new diagram here about how hard can it UI be. Maybe I should call this part 1, but UIB part 1. So use case is, there's a couple of kind of actors involved here. So you've got control owner, and you've also got something like a compliance manager. Okay, so these people want to take attestations and review attestations and access my controls, access all controls, something like this. Okay, probably, I don't know if anyone uses, let me just maximize my browser, and hopefully the size is still alright. Yeah, if anyone uses Draw.io, but it's basically a free cloud version of Visio. Not quite as good, but does the job. Take attestations and review attestations. Yeah, so this is pretty much use cases that we're seeing here from a compliance manager. Now I'm probably just going to focus on one of these personas here, and I always struggle trying to get, there we go, it's a little bit nicer. So that's my kind of basic use case that I'm dealing with, and then the kind of flow that we want to see is going to be like it's a list of controls into a control record, and from the control record a list of attestations. So these relationships are pretty well defined already within GRC, so I just really want to leverage that. The list of attestations, then I want to view responses. This is an out-of-the-box UI action that's going to pop up a UI page in the platform. So I want to move this journey, this experience, into the Now Experience UI Builder. So I'm not building any new relationships. That's pretty much my journey. Let me just save that. So whether I should create a brand new scope or not, I don't know whether I'm going to get any scope restrictions. GRC, if you look, GRC has got lots of scopes. GRC profiles is the main one, but we're going to be playing in kind of policy and compliance. So I'm curious whether we can build this self-contained in a brand new scope. So let's have a go. Let's create an application, and I'll just call this PGD1, something like that. That'll do for now, and I'll just continue in Studio. PGD1. Oh, I've already got a PGD. I'm not sure what that was. Okay, so I've got a scope, and I'm in that scope, and UI Builder. And I know there's one thing, it tripped me up, and I think it's tripped a few people up. I don't know if James is on yet. Wow, I just gone back to the chat. It's firing in here. Okay, so wasn't going to say anything about the pink mullet. Yes, Raf, shout to Upside Down Andrew, Jace. We'll have to try Draw.io. Yeah, so it's Draw.io, but for some reason, once we got it all connected into OneDrive and everything at work, they then changed themselves to diagrams.net. But I'm sorry, that doesn't roll. A Draw.io file is basically an XML file, and you can connect it into OneDrive. You can work collaboratively on there. You can build some really cool stuff. There might even be the ability to integrate it with some stuff, but let's not go into that. But yeah, Draw.io sounds a bit like Visio, and it does the trick, that's for sure. Cool. So that's the use case. That's the use case. This is what we're trying to build, and I've got a scope, and I'm in UI Builder. So yeah, the one thing, so you can see here, I've had a couple of goes just building out an experience, and admin panel. This is the main thing to remember. If you create an experience from the UI Builder kind of pop out here, if you create a new experience here and don't set the admin panel, then it won't show up in My Experiences. You've got to navigate yourself back to the platform, set the admin panel up, and then it will be available here. And I think, from what I can tell, it's this admin panel that discerns these experiences from any legacy workspaces. But, you know, we're all still figuring this stuff out. So, yeah, you can see under here, UX page registries, there's a lot of legacy workspaces. URL path, I don't know how specific we've got to be. I don't know whether page matters, but App Shell UI, admin panel, these are the two things that if we look at Andrew P's post, maybe zoom in a little bit in here, he's got, you know, app shells, app config, experience. So we'll create a new UX page registry, which is another name, I believe, for an experience. So we're going to call this I'm going to call it PGD1. App Shell UI is where you've got the choice of, do you want the workspace app shell, portal app shell, and this is what you use to figure out if it's within something like a portal. It does tell you here, yeah. So look and feel. This has got your header, footer, main content, etc. I'm not creating a brand new one of those. I'm just going to use the workspace one, agent workspace app shell. That will do for me. I'll give this a URL path PGD1. Try and keep it unique. And admin panel. So in here, I can either select one, but I'm going to create a new one for this use case. And I think this is the bit that seems to be missing. I think that's a document field, and that's probably why it kind of looks populated. Yeah, it's document ID. That's why it looks populated. So landing path, home, set an icon, description. Don't know anything about these settings. So now I've got an admin panel, all through. It's lots of configuration that's available in here. Now I've created my registry. If I reload this, is it visible? Yes. Okay, so that's hurdle number 1 passed. We'll take a drink. So on the red stripe this evening. I was going to have a cup of tea, but all right, let's go into PGD1. And the first thing we need to do is create a page. So basically on here, each of these is going to be a page. Here's a page, here's a page, and actually this is a page here because I want to view. Can I link that in that way? What these will be are components, and the ability to move from one page to the other is going to be handled by events, and the ability to pop up this is going to be handled by events. But what I think I might need to do is create a modal page here. Now if that's a modal page and there's an iframe component, I need to be able to receive the parameters that come in. So when you click view responses in the platform, you're passing in kind of 2 parameters in here. You're passing in, oops, ooh, you've got to watch. Let's delete that. Where do we go? You're passing in the instance ID, which is the assessment instance, and you're passing in metric type. I just realised, upside down, Andrew, it's like 6:30 or something, 10 to 7 in the morning now. So I appreciate you tuning in. Hope you've got a coffee. So instance ID, metric type. These are the 2 main parameters that we're going to need to get from our list of attestations. And when we click on that row, we're going to grab those values and somehow pass them into the modal. That's where we're going to get stuck. I know that's going to be the challenge for today. The rest of it should be pretty straightforward. So let's call this name of page is controls, and I think that this means that the namespace is kind of isolated. So if I've got controls within my, see this kind of custom scope application page, I could create another controls page and another application scope, and that should be okay. I think that's what it is. So I'm just going to call that controls. Page template, well, it's a list. Reference the page template. How would you like to add content to this page? Reference the page template and its data. Sounds pretty straightforward. Should I choose to reference or copy a page template? You choose to reference. The page will automatically update when you upgrade to a new release. Well, that sounds nice. Automatic upgrades. Yeah, I guess it's if I was thinking of a comparison within Service Portal, you can clone the out-of-the-box widgets and it still maintains that relationship. Let's see if this works. So variant is where we can pass in, I believe this is where you can, maybe it's not where you pass in, it's where you catch the parameters that we're passing into it, or required parameters here. Variant is, yeah, perfect. So if I'm trying to, jumping around all over the place here, but where you can see developers create pages variant. So a variant is like an instance of the page. So I think that's perfect for me in my use case right now. Just scrolling through, I had a read of this earlier, but under here, if you look, list of controls, well, access my controls, so that would be a variant, and that's access all controls. So for me, that's the same page, it's a list of controls, and the variant here will be you know, the persona that's coming in and the filter that we expect to give. So I'm not going to get into that now, but I can see there where a variant would matter, and I don't need any parameters because I'm just going to get all controls for now. I'm not going to deal with, if we focus on this compliance manager, basically this bit down here, if we focus on these, and then we could create that as a variant. Let's not bite off more than we can chew. So I've got a page, it's a page template, has protection policy. So there's already a limitation of reference in it. So my lists, I don't think I've ever done it this way. Boom, boom, test value. Is that the actual list component there? No, list nav. I've never done it through this route, creating from a template, so I might back out on that. We've got list nav, list write content there, so this should be, here we go, title. Is it because it's read only that I can't change it? Elements, list nav, table, title. Oh, I'm going to bin that off because I want to get something moving. So controls, that's a variant. Okay, so it looks to me, because this is read only, that the template just is going to receive some options, and whatever we pass to it would just be completely dynamic. So this is probably a much more reusable way of building things. Might even be a better way of doing it. I'm just going to call this controls 2. It's a beautiful name, and no template. Is that displaying the protection policy from the UI page? Well, I haven't even got to a UI page yet, so this is just the UI Builder page. It's the kind of the core component, I believe. It looks like I have to select a page template. Oh no, I haven't given it a name. All right, okay, that's why. That's all. Okay, so I'm not going to use a page template now. I can come back to that controls later. Let's just try and get something on the screen. And now I've got a body. The first thing, and one of the main things I noticed here is if we use containers. Okay, so if I put a container in here, I can then modify the layout. Okay, I can split it. I'm not sure what CSS stuff it uses, but it's grid or flex, one of those. It's certainly a modern kind of web design approach, but I'm not an expert on that. But you can split it into 2 columns. If I split it into 2 columns, that's great. Then within this container, I could, add another container, and that container in there could then be split into, 4. So the ability here is very flexible to start building out your layouts. So that one's inside column 2. I'm just going to delete that and look at this content tree as well. If you get lost or you're not sure what you're clicking on, you can just go in here. I'm not sure if I can rename configure components. Can I give that a name? Yes, so I could call that kind of main, right? For example, so if I was, that's called main, that's called main. Probably that's not the right thing to do then. I've got two mains. I actually want my layout to be just wide there. And then where we get to the main functionality is components. So if you look in Quebec, if you've gone over any of your other workspaces in the past, you'll see that there's about 3 components and then maybe some custom stuff. Here's one of my 3 of my custom components actually. And yeah, look at that. Hello world 2020 fail. So that was my achievement, along with Raf, I think it's on the chat as well. Configuration column is out. Oh, okay, right. Thanks, Wizzy. Let's see what's going on here. Right, this is in the large screen. Just let me tweak this. How much do we need? I'll tell you what happened. I changed my resolution. Because on my Mac, I lost like the title bar to Teams or something, and I couldn't do anything with it. So I had to change my resolution to bring everything back into view. And I think that's messed around with my stream. So let's try fading. Oh, cut it. Is that better? We should have config panel on the left, on the right, sorry. Okay, thanks for shouting that out. Yeah, this component, this was for Hacktoberfest, and if you're going to go down the road of custom components, this is the advanced heavy code route, configuring command line, interface, node, local IDEs. Probably you want to be connected to GitHub and branch, and your actual development team is going to work more, I guess, more locally themselves, and then push into Git, and then from there into an instance. But that Hacktoberfest was a learning curve and probably unsuccessful, but that's what's left over. I managed to create a component, and it was going so well that I called it 2020 fail, and I think 2020 was just generally a fail anyway. That's a custom component. The rest of these things, so other than those 3 jigsaw pieces, this is all now out of the box components. So I want a list, and I guess the thing is that template that I used before, if I had a bit more time, I'd go into that page and look at what they were doing, and look at an existing workspace and see. But if I type in here list, there's quite a few options. So list related, I want that next time. I want that within, within this flow here. So list related will be control record list of attestations. This will be a related list within this page. That's what I think. Right now, we just want either a list or a list simple. So I'm going to go with list. I don't know what the difference is off the top of my head, but there is a vast amount of documentation available on developer.servicenow.com as well as docs.servicenow.com. But obviously some of this stuff, UI Builder, is so new that it's not all documented yet. This list now, it's defaulted itself to all active tasks. I'm just going to call this controls. List ID, what is that? The ID of the list. It says select. I'm just going to call that controls. Filter. I'm going to make sure this is, oh no, I need to select my table first. Table up here. It's got parenthesis now, not square brackets. Is that going to make a difference to me? So if I go compliance control, no, it's actual. doesn't like brackets for filtering. Okay, that could cause us some pain. Now I can edit a filter. Within my filter, I'm just going to put active true. That will do for now. Active is true. Okay, if I save this, I've got, wow, 1377. And let's open my experience. Excellent. So I've got a list of controls. That's my first page here. So working on this, I'm going to call it blue because I'm still working on it. I haven't got the ability to go from here to my control record, but I'm going to have a drink. Andrew, have a sip of your coffee. Let's celebrate. So I need another page because otherwise I've got nowhere to go to. But yeah, let's just notice that in here I can click anything that looks nice and clickable. That's nice that you've still got your show matching and you've still got your column kind of core functionality, but clicking on this stuff, it's not doing anything. And that's where events come in. So I am kind of repeating everything I've learned from live coding happy hour. I should probably share the link to that. Let me see if I'll have a stream marker. I'll try and remember to come back and put that pop-up in if anyone's watching this back. I've been going for half an hour and I haven't got quite as far as I was hoping. So what I need to do, yeah, go back to not home. Don't click the home. Pages here. Oh, I've got modals. I've never seen. Oh, viewport. Okay. Use event binding to pass content in. Interesting. That does look like it's coming from controls default. Okay, so that's already got some stuff linked in there, and I can't tell my pages apart right now. So let me see if I can just rename. Edit page settings. Yeah, controls temp. I'll call that controls temp just so I can tell them apart. The goal was one user experience. Yes, Jay. So what I want to do, I've kind of drawn out my use cases, but I am focusing on Compliance Manager. So Compliance Manager wants to access all controls, and from all controls, review attestations. What that means is they'll come into a list of controls. From that list, select a single control record, and in that control record, so in this page, we want a related list of the attestations. And from that list of attestations, I'm going to, I think, use a modal window to embed an iframe of a UI page and try and pass the parameters in there. So not a lot to ask, but I might be disappointed, or I'll just be going for 3 hours. So yeah, let's see what happens. But yeah, a single experience, and hopefully something I can build on from here. So I need a new page. I need to create a page, and a lot of this is just, I've got no muscle memory in UI Builder, so I don't know where to click. I'm constantly trying to remember where I need to go to do each thing. So control, I'm going to go to record and I'm going to copy the content. It's not upgrade safe, but it's got to be a bit quicker than creating one from scratch. Cheers for the vote of confidence. Okay, so, oh, cheers. So here's my page. Require parameters. Now, I do need a parameter in here. I need a sysid. Invalid parameter name. Must use alphanumeric suggestion. sysid. That's interesting. I don't want to use camel case. That would look. I don't know about anyone else. That would look weird for sysid. Maybe just because control ID, the L and the uppercase I looks slightly a little bit too similar. I'm going to roll with it. So I can't open a single control form without having a control ID. No data to display. So what have we got in here? That's a header. And I even struggle to read like this stuff, contents, props. So props is property, which I think is an object, table. So sysid, okay, so I've already got props.sysid already coming in there. Let's see if I've got a page template straight away. If I go back to controls, what we want to do now is from here, go to events, row clicked. So when a row is clicked, we add an event handler, and that is going to link to a destination. Select the destination, which is going to be my app root control, which is my page. Now I've made that a required parameter. So from here, I can then access content.props. No, payload. So why is payload.sysid allowed an underscore? Okay, so payload sysid is going to go over. That should be good. Save that. Let's just see what happens there. Incremental changes. Did that refresh? No, it's waiting. I'll click this. Okay, excellent. So it has passed in sysid to the page control, but I just haven't configured anything to kind of receive those parameters. So that's why I'm a bit curious here. What this is called header. Or is that just header section? And that component config function evaluate is valid record API. Need to see a working version to know how to deal with this stuff. Table. I'm just going to see if I can hard code for now. Oops, SNU tools. That's right, my slash commands were coming up. In here, so it looks like, you know, you'd have a reusable template that you can just pass in that form, that template, that table, sysid, etc. I just don't know how to pass this stuff to that right now. This should be called, if I go to this little dynamic data binding, contents.props, should have control ID. There we go. Primary value. Not sure what my options are here. Subheading. I'm just going to save that and see if that catches my control now. Boom. If I see my control somewhere. So passed in control, passed in sysid, no data to display. All right, well, this is what I actually do. This one down here, resizable panel. So I'd expect this or this to be action bar. This is where I really want to have, I don't know what ribbon collapsed is. I think primary, secondary are what it will display. Where's that? Okay. Where's it getting that from? String for title that will be displayed on the first row. Okay. Number. Subheading. description. Is it called name? Let's try that. So looking for a field. We're all guessing Jace, but I appreciate that. So look, number name, we're seeing something. Is that, oops, is that coming from, is it looking up those values? No, it's just text. All right, well, we're seeing something here. Let's put in here, see if we can bind that to, so we've passed in the sys-ID. So we need something to receive it. I'm going to get rid of this component, right? If I just delete or add a component afterwards, add component after. You can see how impatient I am. I'm just clicking everything. Ah, missed it. Ribbon component is tricky. The first thing you need, a glide from data broker. That sounds difficult. Let's just put a form in here. Why can't I just put a form in here? And is that not what that is? No, that's an action bar. But when I said add after, I thought it was going to put me underneath. So that's ribbon. I'll change layout on here. Column reverse. Requires UX header definition. Green clouds. Wow, you've done some research on this, so I haven't looked into any of it. Skip it. Yeah, that's exactly what I'm thinking. So this is what this looks useful if we've got time to explore it. I'm just going to discard those changes. Don't know what I did. I'm going to put I'm going to call this control form. How's that? Control form. Create it without a template. It still requires glide form data broker, but it is simpler. Okay. I would expect that I could just receive. Have I got to add a control ID again in here? Does it already have sys-ID? We can come back and add that. So if I add a container, and then within my container, I add, what can I tick that? Add, yeah, component, form. Andrew P is here. Oh, hey Andrew, thanks for tuning. So, I mean, you guys have done all the research. I've literally watched Live Coding Happy Hour, got involved in the conversation because I'm really hyped about UI Builder and I think it's going to be excellent, even though I've not really explored it. I've messed around with now components a little bit. It should be simple. I really want it to be easy. That doesn't mean I shouldn't have to do some investigation and learning. I know that. I know I need to. Let's see that I've got no sys-ID available there. So that must be what you were referring to about the kind of data broker. That it needs somehow to, process the information that's coming into it. So I think if there's an example workspace that you can pick up and look at and see, right, okay, that's how it's doing it there. That's pretty much how everyone's learned ServiceNow along the way, right? We've all just looked what someone else has done to solve that problem and then applied it. At the moment, Workspace is a little bit lacking some examples. So in my page, I need, that's default. Okay, so variant is a default there. It's almost like a view. So let's add a parameter in here, save and continue. There's an icon to add a data broker. Okay. So do I not need... I thought I needed to do this, control ID, right? Bottom left corner, DB icon. Let me just add that in there as a parameter. Down here, DB icon. Excellent. Okay. Data resource instances. Inherited data source instances. Dynamic routing. Local data source instances. I'd never guessed it was there. I mean, this is what I mean about muscle memory. The first time you're looking at this, there's so much going on, and I clicked home by accident. I'm still happy with this kind of tree here, but we've got all sorts going on here. Select scope, but that scares me that you can change scope. I guess it might be necessary if I've somehow ended up in a different space, but click add and find glide form. Okay, wow. Find, let's see, form, something form in here. Now record form connected. Oh, glide form there, thanks. Okay, so that's why we've got table sysid, So if I add that in, when to evaluate, immediately eager, only when invoked. I guess only when invoked. So will my table name down here, I'm really missing those square brackets. SN compliance, no. Okay, I've got to scroll through. We need square brackets in UI Builder. So how do I get my sysid here? This is coming from, so I've passed, yeah, so that's what I think that needs to go into. Just put a table name plus sysid for testing. Oh, force view name view default. Let's just save this, right? Because if I go back to my other page, that's called control form, controls. I'll just handle my event quickly in here. So I'm back in the original one. Got an event already set up. Some of these icons are little, they look like they're not clickable, but they are. There's a lot squeezed in here. Link to destination. So this is, what was it gone? Did I lose it? Cancel that. Link to destination. Edit destination. Right, I don't want to go to there anymore. Advanced mode? Nope. I'm not advanced yet. So I want to go to control form and pass in here my payload sysid. Okay. So if I do that and save, that should mean that in my page, on my control form page, I just want to see, I know what you're saying, GC, but I'm stubborn. I've got a prop. I've passed it in my event, and I'm saying here I'm catching it. So I just want to see that that works, and I'll live to regret it. So what was it called? Controls 2. If I click on here, nothing. Okay, but I have got a sysid up there. So I've got a glide form there. Is this bound, this form here? Shouldn't this be coming from, oops. Shouldn't that be coming from data glide form 1? It will work, everything is correct, just while developing at this point. Hard code a sysid. Okay, I'm going to take the advice. Let's not look, have I got to string it? Next step, connect a data broker to the form. Where have you learned this stuff? Is this all in the docs? Because if it is, then I apologise, because really we should be reading the docs first. But this is why I'm testing it. It shouldn't be that difficult, and probably it isn't if I've read the docs or got someone to just tell me how it works. So connect the data broker in here. Sounds simple. Next. I'm just looking at the events available. Put into fields. So this is under config. Fields. Now record form blob fields. Okay, so that's where. So if I went back to my template, now some of this is making sense. So data glide form 1 is that ID there. So we've got data, which is coming in as an object, very similar to service portal, I guess. We've got a data object. Glide form 1 is referring to my local data resource instances. Remove the commas on the sys ID. I haven't got commas on sys ID. There is a fields field on component, put that into the field, yeah, so that's there, dot fields. Yes, boom, okay. Got, is that right there, sys ID, is this where you said hard code it? Should I hard code here and here? And I put quotes in there. No, okay, I thought it wasn't taking it without the quotes. Sections, okay, this is, I'll just change fields to sections. Boom, what, did you see that? Let's have a drink. Oh, sorry, Raf, yeah, took them out, thanks. And that's 2006. So that is my control. So should I then, it's funny that you can't dot walk that now record form blob dot, why can't I access that? But surely that should be dot sys ID or sys ID. Is it? Okay, all right then. Let's just go back to controls. Let me just see this. I'm going to grab 20615, copy that sys ID, and if I change that here, does that change anything? Or is that not accessing it? Yes. Wow. Table and sys ID on form component do not work. You don't need them. Oh, they don't work. Okay. I'm literally learning everything now. Just the data broker is important. And the fields and sections. Because I tell you what, I did do this before and the form just looked completely screwed up. And I had no idea what was going on. So when I said at the start, I've been through this before, basically I got to this point, I passed the sys ID over, and then this just looked messed up. But that's probably because I didn't have this glide form data broker, and I didn't have anything in my sections and fields. If I looked at those, is there, how can you kind of scrutinize what's in there and debug that? Is that an array or a comma separated string of field names? Is that coming from sys UI list? Is it the same for sections? Does it, are they dependent on each other? You know, there's quite a lot to kind of unpack here, but I've got a control form. Now, I want to connect this. That's what I want to do. I want that to be the one I clicked on. And that really explains why when I was clicking it in the issue one, it was just loading up a random. It's probably worth saying I've got no experience with kind of web components outside of trying to do a hackathon with command line instruction, command line interface on Paris. So let's click 1.4. No data to display. Did I not save it? I did save it. You can explore it on the data broker tabs. More. Form, oh my god. Oh my goodness. So, okay. So I've just passed, oops, I'm clicking around. If I go back here, Controls 2, let's refresh that. If I click here, 20610, oh, it did load, okay. So is there a difference? That was quite latent there. Is there a difference between only when invoked? If I say immediately, does that give a slightly better experience? Still slightly delayed, but I'm taking it. So there's a lot of things I don't want here, but I'm not dealing with that right now. Now I want a related list. So let's look at my layout here, and not that one, this container one here. Let's just change this layout this way. Yeah, and then, ooh, what happened there? That didn't make me happy. I don't know what happened there. Control, discard changes. Right, now that I know that that data object was that. Oh, okay, so that one, no data to display. Is this why you said for testing purposes it's nice just to have a sysid in there and then go back? So we know it works, that's a good point. We open up our data at the bottom. Let's just pick on one that we know has got some attestation. So, for example, this one's compliant, but it's in draft. So let's filter out those in draft. This one's in review. Typically, if it's in review, that's suggesting that it's, especially if it's not applicable, that it's gone through an attestation cycle. The only thing is, it's possible that it's demo data and there's no attestation in there. So let's just look at, going back to our drawing board, our use case, compliance manager accesses all controls, and from there, review attestations. I probably should have put a little block in here that's like review control, right, and from there review all attestations, because that's really what's going on here. So list of controls to control record, that's actually looking quite nice. List of attestations. So let's focus on a specific record that we know has got attestations in here, and see this view responses. That's what I'm trying to do. I want that UI page open in a modal in Experience. So let's pick on this control because we know it's a good one. And hard code that sysid in there. And that is the right one. Yeah, 1023. I'll just cut zeros out, by the way, if you hear me say 1, 1, 2, 3 or whatever. That's what's going on. So I've got sysid. Now I was changing the component layout before and it messed with me, didn't it? So let me just see if I get back to that container and change the layout this way around. This sidebar 1, add component. What component can I add? Related list. List related. Excellent. So this is going to be called attestations. My table is going to be ASMT assessment instance. Parent table is SNGRC item. Oh, where's my icon? Item and related list name. I don't know what that means. Related list name. Change task. Talking singular. Parent record sysid. Is that bound from here? glide dot come from there. Should see about 5 attestations if it's any good. I feel like the right hand side related list is probably not the correct one, unless it's just going to kind of list itself as view responses or some kind of here we go, right, glide one dot now record dot form blob dot sysid. Nice, this is what I was looking for earlier, that dot walking. I guess we had to kind of save it first. Well, I'm hoping, Raf, that this setup, so I've said table, and the parent table, which should be this table. So on the assessment instance, there's a relationship from assessment instance back to the originating control, which is the table. I don't know what this means. Parent record sysid, which is this. It's the parent record. That should be enough, to my mind. How are you filtering out the instance records? Okay, assessment instance table has got a reference to its parent, which is the control risk table, SNGRC item, and I'm saying that that parent table, the parent record ID is the glide form sysid. Okay, that should be enough. I'm hard coding the sysid in. No, that's the relationship. Parent table, not parent field, parent table. So the parent is a one-to-many relationship. So parent table. Someone tell me if I'm missing the point here. It's about the relationship. Yeah, the parent table makes the relationship. It's a parent-child relationship. One control has got one or more attestations. So we look at this control, look at attestations. Okay, here's a scripted relationship because it's only showing the ones that are completed, not the ones that are cancelled, not the ones in progress. So that's why it's a scripted relationship here. Plus, it's a scripted relationship because before it used to be, there didn't used to be a parent table on there. You used to have to go through an M2M table. There didn't used to be that field on the assessment instance until I think Kingston. Related list params might be confusing. Just make sure you have a table to query from and then add a filter. So I've got a table, okay. Let's just get something working then. I'm loving green clouds. GC. Literally my saving grace here. Edit filters. How long have we been going? We've done an hour. That's good. I mean, we've got somewhere. So, can I pass parameters in here? SNGRC item. No, doesn't look like that. Control risk. Okay. Control risk sysid is. Let me just paste that in for now. Hard coding, right? Let's get something working. Da da da. Excellent. So related list, it shouldn't be confusing. It should be pretty straightforward from what I'm thinking here. Put any filter for test purposes to make sure it works. Look, those are the 5 records. So 6, 5, 6, 2. In fact, they're in order. I can't filter here, but we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. If we look in here, we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. They are the correct assessment instances as well. Columns, there are no selected fields. Well, I probably don't want half of those fields, to be honest with you. Don't need the control risk. Probably want the assigned to. I probably want don't need the entity, it belongs on the control. Metric type might be interesting. Oh, is that not me adding them? Okay, sorry, assigned to. Okay, we'll add them one at a time. Right, okay. Metric type. I thought it was a slush bucket. Number. Boom. And updated date. Let's do that. State, in fact, and updated. So save that. Assign to, let's move them around. Is that refresh? Lovely. Okay, assign to, let's put state there, number, state. Even though they're all complete, what if we saw some in progress? And I do like, you know, in terms of how configurable a lot of this stuff is. I can't see it here, but we used to be able to specify, yeah, that hide action config. I'm thinking of the main list layout. You had the ability here to kind of, you know, adjust these. I don't want to be able to create a new button, for example. Can you drag them to reorder state percentage? Yeah, that'll do. I've got a few fields in there. Let's just save that. So I'd like to be able to configure this a bit more because I want to turn the new button off. Where's that set up? Why is there a break there? It's funny. Max rows, max columns, action config. Hide list actions. There we go. Does that do it? Yes. Hide highlighted values. What does that mean? Wrap. Lovely. No, we don't want to wrap. Let's make that dynamic now. No, Raf, I'm not going down that road yet because I want to make the journey. Okay, I'm learning that if I just hard code things and keep moving, then go back, that should work. That belongs to that. I'm happy with it. I've hard coded, right? Let's just remember what I need to fix. I've hard coded the sysid here, and I've hard coded the sysid into my glide form. Hide list actions to hide new button. Yeah, I think I've done that now. That's looking good. So when I look at my page, my original controls temp, that actually had modals versus body. So modals is like a different thing, different type of content. So if I look at my control form, add modal viewport. This is interesting. Confirm, destroy, alert. So I've not looked at any of this before. I don't want to add an iframe yet because don't I want to add the iframe as a component within my modal? Content of this viewport modal are dynamic. Excellent. So configure modal content. Maybe it's not a viewport. Is a viewport? Can I not put components in there? Use event binding to pass content in. So what I was hoping is that my modal allowed me to embed a UI page in here. So if we look at what happens kind of today in the platform, here's a control and I click view responses. I'm still in the control. I haven't navigated away, and then I just close that and I'm still in the control and I can look and say, okay, what did they say on this occasion? Boom, through each one. That's the kind of experience that I want in here. So I'm in the control. Let's just check. Actually, I haven't checked that related list. Haven't checked that related list. Yep, this is looking good. Well, I won't say it's looking good, but I've got a control and I've got its related lists here. When I click that, basically, I want to click that and see the response in here. and it has to be in a UI page. Okay, so therefore it's got to be in an iframe. Is that going to come through a modal? I've got a modal there, but I can't do anything with it. Modal should be data according to MVC. Yeah, I want to pass data. So I feel like it's not. Let's create a page. It's only when I saw that modal viewport on the template that's when I thought that it was going to be. So a glide modal in the platform, you embed a UI page within it. Like there's a few different types of glide modal. What it used to be called before modal, glide something, that pops up. Okay, and then you embed the UI page within that. Here I'm going to pop up, or I wanted to pop up a modal, embed an iframe, which then contains the UI page, and somehow pass parameters to that. I think I need to Raf, it won't work. You can't. No, it won't work. That's those back-end UI actions. I've tried it. Those back-end UI actions don't work in the UI builder. Okay, so let's create a page. Create a page. This is going to be called attestation. Let me call it assessment. It's a little bit more generic. Is there anything in here? KPI details? No. So I'm going to create that. No template. Yes, I need parameters. In here, I need instance ID and metric type. Yeah, instance ID, metric type, done. So then I need to add a component. So I'm going to add a container anyway. It feels like it's a good practice to wrap things in containers. I don't know if that's anyone's got a comment on that, but if I then want to move the layouts later, it feels like I've got a bit more. It's like a div basically. That's how I'm seeing it. Apologies if I'm using the wrong terminology. Okay, so look, I've got Wikipedia. That's excellent. I want this to be an attestation. My source. Okay, let's see if we can hard code it. So if we look at what's going on in here, that view responses, that's passing a let's look, view responses metric here. It's passing a URL with these parameters in here. And if anyone's looking at this and dealing with GRC, the thing that's missing there is syspalm no stack equals true, because if you access, I'll show you in a second, if you access that from, and this actually happened with me, to a customer with me earlier. So if I look at a control here and click view responses, boom, see that, and then click here, oh, maybe I'm missing the point. That was screwing up basically. When you click view responses there, and something's changed, that's entering onto the stack, and then there, have I fixed it? Or have they fixed it? UI actions, go forward. It's not in there, is it? Syspalm stack equals no. That's interesting though. Maybe it's a version. Don't know if anyone knows anything about that, but basically I don't want to put it on my stack. Don't think that matters in this case. Let's have a look then. What can I pull in here? So I said I'm going to hard code it. Will it handle relative? I feel like I need more space to work. Does the script give me more space? Let's have a look. Assessment, take 2, accessible sysid. That's the row, that's the control. I'm not passing that in at the moment. That will be my control ID, which is in here. Accessible records, syspalm, accessible type, which is the under view responses, this one. This control, so that's this ID there, which is the metric type ID. Syspalm reader equals true. That's fine, that makes it read only. Have I, sorry. So is accessible ID, that's actually passing different parameters. So accessible sysid, that must be the assessment instance ID. Let me just copy that sysid there. Cheers, Tigroach. So I don't know how to pronounce some of the names I'm seeing, but yeah, thanks for tuning in, man. Let's see if that works. Boom, boom, boom. Return this. So I don't like using the script right now. I feel like I'm going to cancel that, paste it in here, and put a / there. Yes, look at that. Entity. Save that. Okay. Doesn't look like that's rendered quite right. Let's see if we can get there from our page. So control form, events on here, row clicked. See, I was hoping that, oh, look at glide form. Now that that's been data bound, I've got to load more event handlers. Add info message, add warning message, all things that we're kind of pretty comfortable with in the platform. Canvas user refresh. So if I link to destination, look, open or close modal dialog. So it's not a modal in the sense of what I'm used to in the back end. So maybe opening it in a pop-up screen is not possible. Link to destination, select destination, assessment, instance ID will be what's it going to be? Payload sysid, yeah. Metric type will be payload. So I can't access, can't like dot walk to the record. Doesn't really matter what I put in here right now. I'm going to hard code that as well. I'm hard coding everything here just to get it working. Title, my attestation. Oh no, this will be like view response. Multi-instance field, don't know what that is. So if I add that event handler, it said mode form. Does that have another option then? Is that mode? Oh, script, alright, fair enough. I was thinking mode form, modal. So let's apply that and save there. Let's go back to my list. Okay, got a list of controls. I don't think it matters which one I click on because I've hard coded it. So let me just click on here 20610. No, I've hard coded 1023. I've got an attestation here. If I click on it, nothing happens. Okay. Nothing happens. Control form, config related list, row clicked, navigate to destination. Oh, you've got loading background now. I wonder if that helps with the timing that we saw before. So why? Display, flex, no. Attestations, row clicked. That should be taking me to my assessment page. It's not working. Can we do add notification? Add info message. Okay, now I've seen this, I feel like I've got a little bit more tools in my belt because I can handle some of the things that might be otherwise I'm a little bit blind. So control ID. Okay, so that doesn't have access. It's got access to context props, context session, payload notifications. Why has that not got access to event handler on add note? Oh, okay. That's not what I want then. That's saying when a notification gets added. Delete. On row clicked, so I still need to add a row clicked, but from here can I add an info message? That's what I'm trying to do it that way around. Within here, list table. What does it look like? Is this list table? How can I do that? Payload. No. I am shooting in the dark a little bit here, but I've got a payload list table. It seems to like that format. Let's save this. Doesn't matter which control I click on, it's still hard coded. Click on here. Why did that work now? When I added the info message. Let me take the info message away. It's definitely not loading the UI page correctly though, is it? Doesn't look nice. Ah, okay, I've got a bit more space in here. It must be leveraging some of the styling then from the platform. But that form layout, so if I go to my page, why is it shrunk? Is there a setting? What was Raf saying? You have the weight fixed. Oh, width fixed. I'll put that to 100%. 100%? No? I don't know, 600. That'll do, won't it? Not like hard coding though. I'm sure that's not right. Someone who knows a bit more about front end development, tell me what I'm doing wrong. Hey, look, that looks okay. Not applicable. It's funny that. Did I? Let me just look at this. Yes, syspalm reader equals true. I wonder if it's pulling down some of the. It's not accessing some of the libraries from the back end that maybe in the UI page are being used to lock that down. Because really, I don't want to be able to change that. No, I can't change explain. Oh, I can. It doesn't look like I can, but I can. But you know, this is a small success. Now, let's see if I'm in the script here, let me grab that. Don't want to lose it. If I grab that and let's just see return exactly the same thing but scripted. Apply that. Save that. Have I scripted the width? I think I scripted the width. Oops. Take that away. Apply. Get rid of that. Sorry, I clicked on the wrong thing. I want to script the source. I mean, it's nice that you can script the width. That's another powerful feature. Source, yes. Okay. So if I've got source there scripted, what have I got available to me? Params dot. No, okay. It's API dot data dot. What have we got in here? Data dot. I don't think it's very aware. Params dot imports. What have we got on here? Toggle check syntax, format code, toggle comments. That's great, but how do I learn more? I've got time for docs. Not today. I want to make sure I don't lose that. So, okay. So if I can't. What does that look like? So if I want to access the props context.props.instance ID in here, why can't I access context? Was that what it was called? Context API context.props.instance ID. Beautiful. Right. Now we're firing. Okay, instance ID equals boom. And this will be metric type ID. I don't think I called it ID though. Should have done. What's that metric? Oh, that's my own variable. That should be called metric type ID. And can I have full screen? Lovely. So now I'm cooking with, well, I don't want to get ahead of myself, but now I'm cooking. There, that should be then instance ID, and that should be metric type ID, local variable. See, that's nice as well. It's actually telling you a little bit more. Oops, there. So that was metric type. It's telling me local variable, type string. That one it's not giving me any detail about, but I'm happy that it's dealing with that as a local variable, giving me a little bit more confidence at what I'm plugging in here. Tidy that up a little bit. Syspalm reader equals true. So if I can get that to apply, accessible record is invalid. That's promising. Let's see. Go back in my journey. I'm not sure if I've got the clips. There we go. 1062. Assessment. I wonder, are those two different sysids? So that's not applicable test. Let's look here. 1062. Yeah, it's not quite the right one, is it? So go to our page. What are we doing on time? We've done an hour and a half. Where should we knock it off? I'd like it to be connected, if I can do that. It's getting, here's 10 PM in the UK. That's control temp. No, I want control form. Yes, my control page. No, not too many. It's control form. What have I got clicking? So on my events here, when I go to events, taking the payload sysid, we can't access the metric type ID, so that's passing in. So let's just look at this one. So 1062, I'll click there, copy sysid. Let's just put one, need somewhere to put it. So that's 1062. 1062. And this one. 39F. Okay, and I guess 12C is my hard-coded metric type. Yeah, 12C 394. It's my hard-coded metric type. 12C 394. So if I go back here, let's have a look. Responding. Copy found. I haven't set my home page up on my experience. Control 2. Click into this one. Doesn't matter. It's going into 123. So 1062. Oh, it's a different browser window. 1062 is 39F. Let's click on 1061. That's different. Is the control implemented? No. It's different to not applicable. Can't remember which one I clicked on, but let's take a look here. It's yes. Copy sysid. So let's also take a look. If I change that sysid, changes the response. Yes. Okay, so that looks a little bit more promising. I'll click back to my control form. 1064. Yes. 1064. Yes. Oh, we've got evidence there. Okay. 1061. No. Test. 1061. No. Test. And that looks like it's working. I'm not entirely convinced. I'd really like that to have popped up in a window or something. I mean, maybe you could have, down here, the UI form down here, and you click here, and it doesn't. I don't want it to navigate away. It's just, I'm changing the requirements now. This is what happens to me. Kind of our needs evolve. We've got half an hour, but I tell you what hasn't happened. I'm not passing in that control, am I? That's because I wanted to focus on a control that had some attestations. But I think I can fix that now. So, controls. I think the event is handling it correctly. But I've hard-coded it in the G form of my page control form. Discard changes. I didn't change anything. Data. So we're binding our data down here. Glide form 1, sys ID there, and that should be able to get it from my props control ID. Let's save that. We haven't passed anything in. So is there a way of kind of setting? That's what we'd like, is the ability to test values. Lovely. That's what I'm looking for. I don't know how that happened though. I literally don't know how that happened. Did I click something? Copy sys ID here. In the form there. Yes, that worked. That's my 1024. This is not connected because of my edit filter. But I just noticed when I hover that, I can pass in. Conscript it. Would it be an encoded query? Return SNGRC item equals API.props. No, API.params. I reckon GC's dropped as well. So can't access any params import API dot. Look, context session user preferences, user roles. No. Context. Did that not come up before? API dot data. Glide form 1. I wonder if it's in there. Glide form 1. No. API. Okay. Literally don't know how to cancel that. So my filter. Context.props. So how can I access context there? If I go to script, Doesn't make sense to me. If I paste that in there, API.com, I wonder if that works. SNGRC item equals API. Boom. Okay. Let's just save that. Let's get a different control. It's got one attestation in here. Copy this SysID within my UI builder. Yes, okay, so I clicked it. That's what happened. Press enter, or just click off of it. Ah, look, there's one, but I tell you what, my filter hasn't. So that's 1054. 1054. Let's just script my filter now. I want to say state equals complete and yes, 1054. Save that. Okay. Let's try and test out my experience. Now code editor. What is this? Now experience builder. Boom, boom, boom. Okay. Docs are getting better because I haven't seen that before and it's been probably a little while since I checked. So let's pick on one I haven't picked on before. 20594. Boom. Ah, no attestations. Okay, let's look for in my controls page, controls in here, got entity, columns, where have I seen columns there? So I want number, this is a bit jarring, number, name, entity, name, entity, state, and status. State, status, save that. Okay. So I've got active controls, but I don't just want active controls, I want ones that are giving me a clue. So I'm going to filter out draft because they probably, yeah, let's filter in review, which we've got a state. Non-compliant, let's filter out those that don't have a state. Group by status. I haven't done any of this messing around with lists, but that was pretty responsive. So this one, 1023, I know I've tested that one already. Status compliant, 2030. Give me that, 2030 and 1027. Let's just replicate that in the platform. Controls, number, (2030), attestations 10027, 10027, and this view responses. Yes, with an attachment. Look at my screenshot. Yes, with an attachment. Look at my screenshot. Boom. So I haven't got the modal, but I've got a pretty tight flow there from control, list, control form, related list, assessment type. Have a drink. Yeah, looking good. I definitely wouldn't have got this far if it wasn't for GC, Green Cloud. So let me just make sure we got that right in. Thanks, Green Clouds. Save the day. Raf, you've been very encouraging as well. Thank you. I just feel like what? Well, first of all, I haven't got my home page. This isn't edit page settings. Do we make that default? How do we make this page default? That's one thing. That should be simple. How do I deal with that? I don't really want it to go to another page. I want, within the control form, I've got this space down here. If I look at this component, list, that sidebar, if I look at that layout, container, yeah, so within that list, if I added a container and put that component in there, and that container, I change the layout to be that, and then this component should be the UI form in here, iframe in here. Can I make this pass something to this? I mean, that's what events are for. So I did see one of the events in this one would be, let's have a look, events. So row clicked, you can update the URL, add parameters to the URL. Let's see if that, I don't know what that means there. Edit parameters. What can I put in there? Is it syspalm? Instance ID. Oh, okay, that's the browser. So instance. That doesn't look. Click here. Okay, I've clicked edit. So payload sys ID. There's no way of knowing what that is. Is there another way? I need to look at how we pass the data from one part of the page to another part of the page, because ideally I'd have it opening in a modal. That's what I was expecting to happen. So I've got a modal here, but that's just called a modal viewport, and use event binding to pass content in. That's not the modal that you see here, where it's okay, glide overlay. It's not that sort of modal. So embedding embedding a UI page into an iframe as a modal within an experience, I'm guessing is not recommended, or I just don't know how to do it. I feel like I asked the question, how hard can it be? And it's definitely not easy, but it got easier. Okay, there was a lot going on down here that I just haven't explored yet. You know, full disclosure, I haven't done any reading of the documentation since, I think, Paris Now components, and just having a quick browse of, like, if I go to developer.servicenow.com, let me just check something. Just want to check reference. Yes, okay. yeah, so under this site, under guides, no, under reference, now experience, UI framework. There's lots of stuff in here. API reference, main concepts, action handlers, event handlers. I've not read all of this stuff. Reference components. This is where I have had a look at things. But that's a modal. So is modal a component then? If I look at that, I can't. If I look at components, is there a modal component? No. So I think that's when you're building your own, because you see that overview, install. You can put a modal within your own component. Modulus. There's a lot of stuff to read here. But yeah, how hard can it be? On a scale of 1 to 10, I'm going with, right now, somewhere around a 7 or 8. And that's because I had GC on board. I'm just trying to find my intro. Yeah, that's like, how did that? Oh no, didn't work. Hold on a minute. Here we are. This one. Yes. So how hard can it be? I would say 7 out of 10, maybe 8 out of 10, 9 out of 10 if I didn't have a little bit of, if I haven't watched live code and happy, I haven't played around with it altogether. It's certainly up there. If I'm trying to mess around with now components and create my own custom components, that's somewhere in the 9 to 10 in difficulty. Creating a UI builder flow like I've done today, where I'm moving from one record to another record, trying to pass data around, getting my head around it, I'd say somewhere like a 7. But that's with support from someone who clearly knows much better than I do. So shout out to Green Clouds. Thanks to everyone who's tuned in tonight. Appreciate your time. Thanks for... How hard was it? Yeah, exactly. I'm going with 7 out of 10 if you've got someone who knows what they're doing, and you can ask questions. 8 out of 10 probably if I was just on my own. But I think you'd figure it out. It's just, right now, it's muscle memory. It's knowing where to click. It's brand new stuff, and you're just, overwhelmed with all the different options that are there, and knowing which ones you need to care about to get what you need done. Once you've then got something working, I think a little takeaway there is, just hard code things in to make sure it's kind of rendering the data, and then go back and make it a little bit more dynamic. Yeah, difficulty, much harder than it should be, but I feel like it will get easier. We need a bit of practice. We probably need to share a bit more knowledge as a community, with all the documentation that's surely going to come. If you look at the developer site, look at the reference material already available. I'm very confident, and I'm looking forward to seeing what the specific product lines are going to release this year, and in Quebec, in Rome, now based on that kind of baseline functionality. So UI Builder, you haven't defeated me. I will be back, and thanks to everyone for watching. And yeah, good evening, good morning to you in Australia, and those who are the wrong way round. And yeah, take care, stay safe, and thank you very much.